Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Reganelite, and welcome to another Snowflake Roundtable. A very nice Christmas special here. I've got three fantastic guests here for another round of the Snowflake Table. And first of all, I have to stop because I just cannot. I just noticed this hat being put on Darren's head there. That is absolutely awesome.
Where's that hat come from?
I know. It's just that I've got to have to do this, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to do this now because of Darren in there. But welcome everyone to the Snowflake Round Table here. I'm the host Reganelite, and I've got three wonderful guests with me. First person I've got is right down below me on your screen. We had him on the first round as well. He's my co-host at the moment. It is one Angry Pagan. Pagan, how are you? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Survived the storm. It's all good.
Good. And my other guest was also on the first round as well. Unfortunately, Random Scottish History, Jenny, could not be here, unfortunately. But I promise you all, we will have her on the show at some point in the future. That will happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. But please, of course, I'd like to welcome back as well Darren, also known as Daily Blasé. Daily, how are you, my friend? How are you doing?
Not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. I don't know where this hat suddenly came from, but
I can confirm he did not have that hat on before we started this. Yeah, so I'm not sure how it magically appeared on his head.
I guess it came from your local football club.
It most certainly did, my friend. Thank heavens we have one sensible person on this panel.
Yes, we have three bad people and one sensible person, and that sensible person is from the YouTube channel, the two Davies. This man has done such wonderful work for the people of Scotland, highlighting the importance, and not just for Scottish independence, but for helping out so many people all across the country. Dave McGuinness, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thanks. And it's not really me or the other Davy, only the two Davies that help these people out. We just asked our friends to help us help people out. So it's actually the audience who are doing it. I just take a few days each month to distribute the money to food banks, but it's not actually us that are doing it. So I want to give the credit where it's due, and that is to the audience who watches. Because it's them who actually do it. We just facilitate it because we recognise there's a need. And our audience recognises there's a need.
Yeah.
More importantly, and I don't want to be funny about this, a lot of guys are doing YouTube successfully and earning from it. And what I've noticed about them all is they all give back to their audience, every single bloody one of them. Not just in content, but as they get more successful, they bring the audience along with them. I've seen YouTubers who are really successful rock up at somebody's door and hand over a car because they've seen an audience member car was broke or paid for their garage bill or whatever. So I know it's a community thing. There is a sense of community amongst the people who do this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that that you and Davey are seen as seen on YouTube as kind of like the faces of Scotland. I think it's fair to say on YouTube, when from at least from my perspective, as the faces when it comes to for that. But obviously, like I said, it's never about one person. It's always about everybody who's involved in it, and I think that's very, very well put. So everyone in the chat, welcome, guys. Hope you're all doing well. The first story we're going to talk about is one of the most stupidest stories, because unfortunately, this idiot is the leader of the Conservative Party, I'm afraid. So for those who don't know the context, guys, Kemi Bacanot says, I will not touch bread if it's moist. Kemi Bacanot sparks a Westminster food fight. This is over bloody. This has started over sandwiches, guys. This is the most stupidest thing. She also is quoted as stating that lunchtime is not real food. Now, before we joke and slam this, there is a genuine concern about this kind of context, and this that I really want to point out is that while we mock, and rightfully so, of how pathetic and this this nonsense is. I see this as an attempt to try and undermine the needs of people having a actual generally lunch break in the working environment. I think this is an attempt by her to try and undermine, because the point that she makes in there is that she works while she eats, and this is the premise that she is trying to make to people, is that you don't need to have a lunch break, that you can work from 9 to 5 or whatever. You don't need a break. Oh, you need to have food. Just have some food right next to you on whatever your job is doing. And this is generally the context of how I'm seeing this, as opposed to not just seeing this as a stupid, pointless debate that's coming up here. Davey, I want to start with you. What is your thoughts on this pointless thing? And do you agree? Do you think this is a narrative to try and undermine people having a proper lunch break during their work? Because I generally think that's where this is about.
You know, you could be right, but I think you give the lady too much credit. I really don't think she's that fucking smart. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Yes, you can. You can swear till the cows come home.
I'll try and keep it to a minimum, but I really don't think she's that smart. You know, I think it was really a jibe at other MPs who are using the Commons facilities and eating sandwiches as opposed to going to the Commons restaurants and having a steak.
It's more of a class statement.
You think it's more of a class statement?
I also wonder if it's their way of trying to make her look. She's human. She's being human and trying to be humorous. You know what I mean? It's like, this is her human side. You shouldn't take everything she says seriously. I think there's a little bit in that as well, you know.
Well, in an interview with The Spectator, she basically was saying, like, lunch is for when I have food brought in and I work and eat at the same time. There is no time. Sometimes I will get a steak, she said. Now, the kind of job that politicians doing, yeah, it's understandable that they don't have any time if you're serious at your job anyway. If you're serious at your job.
Yes.
But it feels like they're trying to imply among like the average workers. I mean, you guys can in the comments can tell me, but as well, if you want to point in your comments. But like, even during my time in retail, I can even say that I've actually gone without lunch whenever it's been a really busy day, and I shouldn't do, and that's really wrong for me to do so. But I also know people who generally will not have anything at lunchtime either. So I don't know if that's where this has come from, or is this just from her experiences.
Do you remember this is coming from the same person who cast shade on menopause and on maternity pay? Yeah. Like,
yeah.
So it could be about workers' rights and the right to have lunch. But what was interesting in her statement, as you say, she gets it brought in, or she'll nip out for a steak. If that's not a class statement, what is?
Yeah. Well, let's be honest.
Sandwiches are no real food. What does your average Joe take to work? A flask and a sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest here. Who, you know, though, how many times have you all seen those road workers? You know, tarmacking. While they're tarmacking, they're tucking into their steak. Yeah, I see it every day.
Yeah, they've got a plate and a knife. They got the steak knife as well. Okay.
Yeah, they're flying in a bitumen in the back of that truck with a burner on. They just
pinky out.
Even down here, you had that imagery of the old miners with the pasties. You know, the two sides of the pasties, so you could work.
Saturday, what?
I can just see it, the bitumen burner on the back of that truck with a big rack on the top of it, a steak on top.
Yes.
Anybody want a steak? No, thank you.
Yes. What do you think, John? Kebab? What do you think we have?
Covered in oil and tender.
Oh dear. Keir Starmer basically says, I think he was surprised to hear, spokespersons for Starmer said, I think he was surprised to hear the leader of the opposition has a steak brought in for lunch. The Prime Minister is quite happy with a sandwich lunch. Even Nigel Farage is actually siding with Keir Starmer's remarks on it as well. Nigel said like he has no problem with lunch on that as well.
Reform Dale coming up next.
When Nigel Farage is treating you like a joke, you know you're fucked.
I want to know what Ed Davies had to say about it.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that would be interesting, actually.
Grand Joker.
MPs and nobody's letting them speak.
Oh yeah.
Just as well as releasing a Christmas single.
Just another thing. A survey for Hovis earlier this year found that the nation's favourite sandwich was a BLT followed by chicken salad and tuna mayonnaise, just for reference there.
Yeah, I can imagine when Baker saw that statement of whether we're getting slapped.
It must be an era thing, because back when I was young, it was ham and cheese. It was cheap.
Yeah, but I'm still a ham and cheese person. So
yeah, ham and cheese, mayo.
But I mean, what is you know, like, what is Kemi trying to do here? Is she just trying to stir up a conversation? Whereas, you know, because she's been banging on about immigration, is she trying to stir up a conversation, like bringing this up in an interview with The Spectator? What exactly was she intending to gain here?
It's a feckless attempt to create her own culture war. As I said, she tried to do the same thing with maternity pay, and the same when she was in government. She was so she was supposed to be the Women and Equalities Minister, and yet when I'm pretty sure it was Carol Vorderman went in there, like to talk to the board about this. Kemi Badenoch couldn't even be bothered to turn up. And when she was challenged about this, she was like, well, it doesn't really affect that many people. I'm like, just wait till you fucking go for it.
I'm just wondering if when she does have that steak, does she eat it raw or don't bother cooking it? Just get it down the gullet, like in that film
cheese and Branston pickle is the best. We need to have a bit of fun, guys, because it's always that she's literally throwing red meat to the Tory base. Is it literal throwing literal?
Saying that, Regan, I want to go back to what young Angry Pagan said. And what you have to do is look at the series articles attacking workers' rights, like maternity pay and things like that, And then you start to put together the pattern. And it could well be that this throwaway remark was to bring about another debate on whether your average Joe should have a paid 40-minute break or a paid 30-minute break. So no,
well, I never had a lunch break paid for. I never got it paid for.
Well, as a truck driver, they always paid us for lunch, because if they didn't even get out the truck and walk away, and their load would be vulnerable,
Real workers' power.
I'll go to the cafe and leave that 45 foot full of whiskey on the corner.
Well, I never got not for lunch for the retailers that I worked for, but it depends on every job, every retailer was different. But it was, I think it was like I had a choice of whether I wanted, when the last job I worked for, like I had a choice if I wanted to have an hour's lunch, but to me it was kind of pointless to me having an hour's break. So I just said, let's just have a half an hour one to work and either bring in food or get food, because like I don't want to kind of just mull around for an hour waiting to start my shift again, if you know what I mean, because it kind of drags on. Because some people, they just want to work. I mean, there are some people who are happy to take a full hour break, but it varies from different people, I would say.
I mean,
under the Factories Act, you only get 30 minutes anyway in your average job. So over the 9-hour period in the Factories Act, or the EU directive as it became known, this is the 1972 Factories Act, which became the EU Working Time Directive. Over a 9-hour shift, you're entitled to 45 minutes, a 30-minute lunch break, and a 15-minute in the afternoon coffee break, as they called it. That's the legal requirement. And that's why drivers, over the 9 hours that we're allowed to drive, have to have 45 minutes. You can split it, but you have to have a 45-minute rest. It's to comply with the EU Working Time Directive, or the old 1972 Factories Act, prior to us joining the EU, which went on to become the Working Time Directive. So we did contribute good things to the EU, as well as the EU being advantageous to us. And as we all know, the fact that Ruta has really given us a scalping. But just in case people didn't know the background behind the idea of a break and legal and being paid for breaks, it has to do with the Working Time Directive. When you work an 9-hour shift, you're entitled to 45 minutes. You work an 8-hour shift, you're entitled to a 30-minute lunch break. Yeah.
No, I think that's reasonable. I mean, someone was just asking about do they not have a break every 4 hours? It depends on the. It could also, you also have to remember as well. Different age groups can have longer breaks as well, because obviously if they're under a certain age as well. So in some work sectors they would get longer periods, understandably so
that
as
would
well.
have to be an agreement with your company though, because it's no a legal thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to the legal thing, you have to have these breaks. You don't have to pay them, but you have to have them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did work on did a cash and hand job when I was a bit younger on a work site up in Axminster, and the average break was like between 25 minutes and half an hour. But like we were working around other people's homes, taking render off houses and stuff. So it was like it was a case of trying to be not as trying to be as convenient to the houses, the people within the houses we were working on as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we actually had a constructive conversation rather than just berating Kemi Bakanock on a stupid idea over it. Because I do think there is obviously like the media will make a debate out of something really small, but there is like this nudge in the back of my head, like this could turn into something if it's ran by like GB News, they could run it into something completely different, those categories. But we'll move on from that, because it's not really a serious topic, you guys. What is a very serious topic is the farmers' protest, and that is over the inheritance tax. So last Wednesday, guys, in down at Westminster during Prime Minister questions throughout the whole day outside Parliament, up to 700 tractors. It was reported over up to 700 all the way down Westminster, pretty much blocking everything, including ambulances that were doing their job. Now, obviously, there's
a very congestion tax.
Yeah, you said that yesterday. But I also, before we just touch on that, I also want to put this out to the chat, because I think it's a very important headline as well that came from Byline Times that they put out today as well, which is they called it 2-tier reporting. Why have they got a headline 2-tier reporting? Well, it says when climate protesters slow ambulances, they're vilified. So why are wealthy farmers given a free pass? Media outlets rush to condemn climate change campaigners as middle-class protesters during the chaos, while ignoring greater disruption by millionaire landowners. Pagan, I'll let you go first. What's your reaction to pretty much that headline and the farmers' protests?
It's right hypocrisy, isn't it? Like, considering, again, like, they talk about, like, the social conservatives like to talk about, like, they'll complain, but they actually like the clean air stuff. And then they complain about, people gathering their cars up for an event and stuff. They say it's always a bunch of yobbos. But when a bunch of tractors do it, which, expel fuck knows how much more emissions, it's, oh, look at, we got to be proud of them. It's like what? And then, you're blocking the ambulances, and it's like, they block even more than they block the ambulances even more than the climate protesters. All you had to do was pick them up and move them. Like the tractors, you can't just pick them up and move them. Like
I should just point out as well, there was verified video online of tractors being blocked by the tractors as they were coming down as well. There was video footage of it.
It's such hypocrisy. I mean, down here, I live between fishermen and farmers with the tourist sector in the middle, and there is such idiocy surrounding, like the farmers kicking off about inheritance tax, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, the rich are being finally getting taxed, and you've fallen for their bait. Like, what? I mean, granted, I would prefer a land tax would make more fucking sense, but like, this is angled towards the rich. Look at the people who mostly come out to complain about it, for crying out loud, Jeremy Clarkson and such. Like, but do the poorer farmers realize this? No, right over their fucking heads.
Darren, what do you make of the situation around farmers?
Well, I just thought myself, God, I wish I could afford to have a day off from work to go protesting. You know? Also, did our Nigel Farage do his custom dressing up as Farmer Giles?
I'm gonna say I don't think he did, because I generally as far as I have not seen verified of it, because what I did see people doing was I saw a lot of the same clips that Nigel Farage was on the first protest. So I think people were trying to portray that he was dressed up for it, but he was in Parliament in the suit and everything, wasn't he? Because I did see him in the back back seats there. So I'm gonna say he didn't dress up. Yeah, I don't recall him being. I don't think he was down there, if I'm honest. But one of the other Reform MPs, Rupert Lowe, is his name is. Yeah, he was down there talking to them. But
did he borrow the Farmer Giles outfit?
He did not borrow the Farmer Giles outfit. No, he was in a suit and he was talking to them. But what do you make of this whole situation around British farmers? Like, do you think they have a point and an argument to make? Really,
it's in the stats, mate. I'm looking at the stats and what we're being told, how many will be affected. And then we look at the price of land. We look at the price of a non-exempted things like farm buildings. So talk about equipment and things like that. And very quickly, your average size family farm of 20, 30 hectares turns into a £3-4 million plot of land and equipment. So I'd like some in-depth research into it. You know, I'm more likely to side with Professor Murphy, where he says, no, actually, this is the people they're targeting, and most farmers with the exemptions will be exempt. You know, farmers. But I haven't seen enough of the data yet to bring a conclusion. As to the protests, well, you know, when you're taking £100,000 worth of tractor into the middle of London and it only does 8 miles to the gallon, it tells you a wee bit about how wealthy they are.
Yeah.
Makes a change for him to travel down on trains first class, though, doesn't it? So,
it does, right. But as I say, I'd like more data on it, and to be honest, I haven't really done enough research on it. What I will agree with the farmers is, if this is going to be a real impact, and it means they're going to have to divest themselves of land to be able to pass down their holdings, then factory farming is coming, because it's going to be big business that buys this land.
Yeah.
And we will look at Keir Starmer cuddling up to people at BlackRock who are buying huge swathes of agricultural America, Ukraine, and all these places, then you do start to worry.
Do we also think, though? I think it's a Bowler Hatman. Good to see you there in the chat as well. I think I don't just think it's just the inheritance tax. I generally think there are some farmers. I do think there are obviously some farmers who are rightly generally concerned, because I've heard now for the second time, I've heard about farmers taking their own lives over this inheritance tax decision. Now, I think that's something we should be seriously concerned about, because they feel that whether we rightly or wrongly agree with it, I think that's something we should be very concerned about. And one of the stories is basically saying they just want to get round the table and talk to the government about this inheritance tax in particular. But I don't think it's just inheritance tax. It's Brexit. It's what has the Conservatives over the last 40 years done for British farmers as well. And I think that a combination of that and Brexit, I think that has also contributed to what has been the downfall of many British farmers as well.
I was watching a news segment, was it last week, beginning of last week, and you had this economist saying that this is a good thing. Young farmers should like this, but like you had the farmers on saying like it's not just the inheritance tax. I mean, I wish they dropped the inheritance tax and say about the fertilizer tax and all that. Now, don't get me wrong. For me, I prefer them to move on to enhancing fertilizers, because it doesn't damage the actual land so much.
Yeah,
use more natural fertilizer, but like they are worried about is the effects of Brexit, which majority voted for, the effects of 14 years of Tories, which the majority of them voted for, but there's these slight other taxes that no one else is talking about, that like the fertilizer tax, and I think there's a tax going up to do with processing on certain stuff that comes from the farms, maybe wheat and grain. So that I think is probably more what's like the inheritance tax, with the way that the right wing is driving it, is probably that icing on the top moment. They're like, oh, you're fucking kidding me, not another thing.
It does
The
appear.
interesting thing for me with the farming situation is, as we know, Brexit caused farmers to have to downscale their operations. But at the same time, if we look at the price of agricultural land, it's still going up. Somebody must have an interest in it, and the farmers must fucking know. So there's a lot of things going on here. But what really worries me, of course, is the food security side of it. Because the one thing the farmers, they have right, especially in England, we took that 40% of the food that your own farmers produce. Because remember, we overproduce and we export here in Scotland food and drink. Right? But if that 40% of what your farmers produce right now disappears, then you're totally vulnerable to everybody else on the planet.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea. Food security is very, very important. And Westminster government after Westminster government has neglected it. While up here we've had a look at it and we've turned it into a major industry with export value, which adds to the balance of trade surplus of our land.
Yeah.
There's another farming, slightly more funny farming thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's with the Reform UK. And Nigel Farage apparently is saying how we should boycott British milk because semi-skim milk is woke.
Oh yeah, that was that.
No, I'm not shitting. I'm not actually shitting you here.
Yeah, well,
I'm with Nigel on this one. Give me full fat milk. It's good for me.
Yeah. The only problem was he did his best to try and hide the full fat milk.
It's all to do with
but failed miserably.
It's all to do with a way that the milk is processed, and it's like, it's woke, and I'm like,
well, actually, I seen the interview with him, and he was talking about being in a hotel, and they had goat's milk, they had oats milk, they had soya milk, they had all sorts of milk, and he just went, for fuck's sake, give me some milk, my coffee.
Like Nigel. It does my head in, because every now and again I will hear still some support down here. Not so much from the fishermen, because they know that he hung them out to dry, but the farmers and some of the right wingers down here, they're still listening to him. And I'm like, he's now saying to boycott milk, for fuck's sake. 30% of all dairy products in the UK is processed in Devon alone. Are you kidding me? Don't be stupid again.
I'll tell you what, there's also a wad of a Western Isles milk being processed in Devon, because Devon creameries that were in the Western Isles moved production back to Devon, but they're still shipping the milk to the Western Isles to the bloody production plant. So they can keep the same label on it, to keep the selling it.
Yeah.
Talk about gross stupidity. Why did they do it? They were subsidised by the UK government to move the industry out of the islands.
Oh dear. Well, I must admit, my good friend Aki's mad in the chat made a very good point about my asking. Well, it makes a change from travelling down first class on train, and he said it all depends. Blaze, do they have cow catchers on the front of the trains? Very good friend. Get a very good point, my friend. But yeah, as I say, when it comes to the farm, and it's not something that I've never worked on a farm, and I've never really been on one, and so I don't really have a strong opinion of it. But when I watched the protests, when you talk now, people will say, well, yeah, they're well known, Jeremy Clarkson and Andrew Lloyd Webber, and you've got Nigel Farage doing his Farmer Giles impression. They're going to go straight to them, but these are incredibly rich people. It's not a good look, is it, when you've got these Jeremy Clarkson, the tax dodger himself.
But it was quite a huge, like, it was a huge protest, right? But you didn't see like you didn't see like the public like going saying, oh yeah, we're all I didn't see the impression that I got from the images and videos that I've seen. It didn't, like, there were a few people who were in solidarity with British farmers, but there were some they weren't like fussed about it, like they were just carrying on minding their own business, not paying too much attention to it.
That's as big a problem as anything else. I mean, if we talk about the Brexit effect, we know being able to get seasonal agricultural workers. The fact that we're so nonchalant, or the English people are so nonchalant about where their food comes from, and the lack of connection with that food is a bigger problem. It would appear, because England has become so metropolitan, that they think their food comes through supermarkets. This bringing it up to the fact that, I mean, it's a wee bit different here. No much. We do have metropolitan areas who think like that. But for the majority of us, because food production is one of our major industries, then we're all well aware where the food comes from. But I've noticed that when I've been, especially in the London area and the southeast, they expect to have the best quality food without knowing how it fucking gets to their table.
Yep.
Very privileged.
That is 100% true.
It's the same
the whole farm thing is complicated, but let's get back to your original point about the farmers blocking ambulances and the two-tier reporting. Well, let's have a look at how Keir Starmer treats protesters and rioters and journalists. There doesn't seem to be a line between the protests, the rioter, and the journalist, because they're all going to jail. But this didn't start under Keir. This started under the Conservatives. Mind the people getting lifted for holding blank bits of paper outside courtrooms? People being arrested for not my king?
Yep.
Not my
fault. You just spoke about the Just Stop Oil protesters being thrown in the slammer.
Just want to point out, like, there's this, like, someone mentioning it on Twitter, on Blue Sky, actually someone, because I was reading the article earlier, that the one I've shown for you guys in the chat, and I'll put another link up in the live chat in a moment. Someone said if they were climate protesters, they would already be in cuffs, and it's absolutely 100% true, because 100% true, and this is unfortunately, even though it's not the same thing, it feeds into the two-tier narrative. When you heard the term two-tier policing the first time you were hearing that from Nigel Farage, who started that with the riots. So now you hear two-tier reporting. So now there's this precedent is going to be more and more set. But people already know that there's already this case that there's this general consensus that there's one rule for one people and a one rule for another.
There are.
And it's absolutely and
I'll
whatever
give
you might.
An example of one rule for some people and one rule for another. There's an MP, an SNP MP had to stand down and face criminal charges for breaking COVID rules by travelling on a train to get home. Whereas Boris Johnson got a £50 fucking fine for throwing parties. Don't tell us there's no two tiers. And I don't mean that just Scotland-wide. I mean even worse in England, because that's where your journalists and your protesters are being thrown in the slammer.
Yeah.
Those laws don't apply here. We don't get thrown in the slammer. They tried that when the king, your king, was up here to do his 3 trip down the Royal Mile, and they were shouting about Andy being a nonce, and the boy was huckled away with a pose. That boy was, they pose get the reprimand, no, that boy. Freedom of speech.
Yeah,
You know?
it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I understand the right, like the rights to protest, but when it's a certain particular protest, ones are treated differently than the other, and it's absolutely infuriating. And there was actually a story from Byline Times as well. They had another one about one civil servant who's basically supposed to be in charge of, who's basically in charge of dealing with terrorism and whatnot, and is looking to portray even more enforcements on more laws to enact on protesters to make it even more difficult for protesters, which is like, well, I thought Labour was supposed to be going in the wrong direction, in the other direction. I thought they're supposed to be reducing and allowing more protests, but that doesn't appear to be the case at the moment, because with so much going on, we're not hearing anything from Labour about
that. I do feel there's some panic. I have heard some stuff about this, and I've been trying to get my thoughts straight for a video from a channel, but fuck it, I'll give it a punt here. Yeah, no, I think this is panic from Labour on that front, Regan, where, like, with everything going on right now, you've also got Russian sabotage, not just here in Britain and in America, but across Europe as well. Like, they're blowing up different bits in factories and stuff. IT systems going down, and this is being sourced back to Russia and somewhat to China and North Korea as well. So I do think, like, they feel a bit overwhelmed and are panicking, and it's like it's just a bit disappointing. You know, we in the West pride ourselves on having the best security stuff, and like, it's quite embarrassing that we're just letting this is just keep going, and we're not. It's almost like we're just not improving. We're just reacting. Instead of it, we need to start being proactive. Not saying we should go and attack Russia. I'm just like, when it comes to our security, you know, beefing up. What happens to the beefing up of our security systems? Oh, that's right, Brexit.
Yeah, Brexit seems to be like, well, things were already problematic, but it just feels like Brexit kind of just threw on top of things. And yeah, I just actually was listening to I watched again last week's Question Time, and just the amount of times that Brexit was brought up by Alistair Campbell, and rightly so, because people, you know, the mainstream media try not to mention the B word as little as possible, but it plays into the situation of everything that we're in, unfortunately, guys. Thanks, you guys.
A prime example of how people's rights have been oppressed was Michael Gove, when he was communities minister, redefining extremism. Whereas he just redefined half the population of Scotland as bloody extremists because their idealism is to break up the state. I mean, that's how crazy things have got.
I was nearly investigated under the Extremism Act. Was it because the social services were getting worried that I was radicalizing my little brother, and I couldn't work out whether it was the socialism.
You sure it's not that bad though you've got on your forehead there?
Well, I couldn't work out if it was the socialism or the paganism, because I'm pagan, right? But then, like, they're just like, we're worried about radicalization. I'm like, from what?
From a pure young fella, and nobody's going to notice you're a pagan. It's in your name.
And you're angry.
I will, Darren. You
don't fuck with me. I've got a sword.
secretly we're angry. We're just trying our best to cope with it, generally with a smile.
Yeah, we got to, because it's just a
Yeah,
pretty, it is pretty depressing, and it's supposed to be Christmas as well. Well, that's why I started with the sandwich topic, because it's
Oh, that day, I know you watched my programme this afternoon, Reganelite. That's why I was ripping the fish out of the Tories with their fascism and their segs and things like that. And then ripping the fish out of the Labour Party for the lack of talent here in Scotland, you know, because it is the season to be jolly.
It is. I mean, I brought it up on yesterday on my live stream. Like, if you just quickly off topic, I mean, I brought up the you know, there was a committee, there was a in the Commons, they were having the debate about Scottish energy, and there wasn't a single Scottish MP at it at all, and yet it was just like, well, like what you know, is there not someone from Labour that's interested in this at all? Like, but there was one or two Labours, but they weren't even there, but they were just there because they had to be, not because, and they weren't even from Scotland. I was just like, well, what's going on?
The only Scotsman in the room were a couple of SNP speakers.
Yeah.
But no, that wasn't the thing. Is really the news is that dark at this point in time. We do need to try and be a wee bit light about it, you know.
Yeah.
We can find something to poke fun at, because some of the stuff we're watching is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Prime Minister's questions, Chris, it's a Punch and Judy show.
It is. I'm more interested in what Davies says anything than Kemi at my moment, because at least, you know, even though you don't get the answers, they're more compassionate questions from him, at least, than you just getting nonsense from Kemi Bakanock. Because I thought,
and funny enough, it was the same and all when Stephen Flint and the previous SNP leader was
questions,
given were the second, the third biggest party. You know, it seems to be that the third biggest parties do tend to put across the better points at Prime Ministers. You're right about nobody answering the question, of course. But to me, it's so staged, managed.
Steve, just for everyone's reference, he says, I am fucking jolly and I'll deck anyone who says I'm not.
Looking at that picture, I don't doubt you, young man.
Quite right, Steve.
Sorry, that just that comment made my day. Thanks, God. Oh dear.
Definitely lightened the mood, that's for sure.
Yes. One place that is, shall we say, I would say a bit mixed on Jolly. I think. I mean, there is joy. We're going to go away from the UK for a bit, guys, into Syria, because there is joy at the moment in the country, regardless of what we may or may not see on the outside. We still don't know what's going to happen in terms of what kind of government, if there is going to be a government, if there's going to be a breakout of civil war again, or, you know, or what's been happening right now with Israel trying to take annexed territory and still conducting airstrikes. What's happening, of course, with the north of it, with the Kurdish groups there, with regards to them, and Turkey as well. There's a lot obviously going on at the moment with that, but despite all these things, there is a sense of joy, of relief from the people of Syria, because as I've mentioned before, and I think this is really important for people to understand the context for Syria. You know, I'm probably going to butcher his name, the Bashar regime. They've been in power for decades and decades and decades. So they've had the same dictator in charge for a long time, and there have been some, and that they have tortured and destroyed any political opponents, anyone who had any kind of objections whatsoever to him and his regime. They were disappeared, they were brutally murdered, tortured, and they've been living in a world of fear for a long time, the people of Syria. And regardless of how we may see it on the outside by some of these groups, and yes, there are some extremist groups, who may be a part of this potential government that could be formed by Syria. It is a relief to the people of Syria.
Then the shaft.
Davey, what's
Joey
your
is a mass murderer who 10 years ago was in ISIS chopping the fucking heads off of innocents, and all of a sudden he's been rehabilitated by the West. There's some fucking mugs here. I'll tell you a wee bit about Syria, will you? Well,
Please do.
nation, nae national debt, in control of their economy, secular state, the last of them in the Middle East, and the bridge to Iran's regime change in Iran. At this point in time, the West has taken every oil-producing nation in the Middle East, with the exception of their allies, the Saudis and the Arab Emirates. Don't kid yourself. What's coming down the road for the Syrians is a fucking nightmare. A nightmare. This idea that they're getting democracy, they don't know what it is. This idea that they're getting liberated, they're about to be liberated by every US fucking corporation on the planet.
Oh dear.
Slowly their economy will happen, and they will get poorer as colonialism rips their resources.
I think I 100% agree that they don't know anything. They don't know democracy because they've never had that kind of it. They've never had that in them.
Who this guy who's proclaiming to be their saviour is. We all know. 10 years ago, America had a £10 million price tag in this guy's head.
Mm.
He was a leader of ISIS. All of a sudden, he's a liberator. There's some fucking mugs out there. Some real mugs. Now, you can look this up. I'm not making this up. This Joey fella had a £10 million bounty on his cop 10 years ago. He was running about the Middle East, cutting the heads off of people who disagreed with him in their caliphate. And all of a sudden, this guy, I seen it on the BBC World Service today about how this guy's changed their 10 years.
Is this the...
Really? Guess who's been arming this insurrection? Now, you guessed it. The West and Israel. The last of the secular states. The buffer zone to protect the Christians, the smaller Muslim tribes. That was on Syria. And remember, National Health Service, free education, great economy, no national debt. But one thing it was a buffer to regime change in Iran. People need to wake up and see the global picture as a jigsaw puzzle, but get up the ladder and look down. What happened to you? I didn't agree with the Bashir Assad regime or his father's regime. But one thing I did know, that under Bashar, it was a much gentler regime. The state advanced. It advanced. When you get really bad opposition, it could be brutal. So could Mace. But he kept that a secular state, and he kept the smaller tribes safe. What's going to happen now is there's going to be civil war after civil war after civil war until the place has been ripped to bits, and then you've got a puppet government in place by corporate West, and that'll be quite quick, 12 to 15 months. So you're going to have insurrection and fighting between these groups who'd all bonded together to topple Bashar. And then we're going to have a puppet government. And then will the corporate West move in, and Syria is about to be raped.
Let me ask you.
Lebanon.
I was just going to say, let me ask you, Davey. Do you think what happened was because of Russia, because of the situation that they're in, or do you think it's a multiple of things? Like, why now? Because
of the BRICS. Because of the BRICS have become so powerful, and they've set up a UN endorsed and an IMF endorsed global payment system, which excludes the petrodollar, the US dollar, as the currency. China's just cut off £690, $90 billion worth of imports for America. America's in trouble. Big trouble.
Well, we already know they're in trouble because of their next president anyway. That's for sure.
What do you mean, Reganelite? He's going to make America great again. He said so.
No. He's going to make Trump great again. He's not going to make America great again. Daily Blasé, what do you...
right now are really geopolitics right now is a really serious subject, and people really need to look out with what you're getting for the BBC, what you're getting for ITV, what you're getting for Sky, but look for reliable sources that are on the ground. So look at the media in the countries surrounding Syria and look at what bloggers within Syria are saying. Because you're talking about celebration. I haven't seen any, mate. And I'm watching citizen journalists. They're all frightened of what's next.
Well, that's footage online of Syrians actually celebrating within Syria. There is footage online.
What you're seeing celebrating is these groups that have toppled Bashar.
No.
You haven't seen the ordinary Syrians celebrate.
No, I have to argue. I have to argue back there. The Bashar al-Assad's system, whilst it was great in some ways for secularism, I mean, Rojava is a better model for a secular democracy inside Syria. Rojava, the Kurdish region, is a much better.
Why do you think the Kurds are oppressed?
Well, they want their own. I mean, they want their own state, don't they? But they're not going to.
Actually, no. The Kurds, the Kurdish, the Rojavans, and I've looked a fair bit into this. Rojavans are set. What they want is to be, whilst they want their autonomous zone of Rojava, they don't want to be separate from the rest of Syria. What they're saying is that they want to be a part of the rebuilding of Syria.
Well, that's a new direction for me. I'm not quite up to date on it, but
I'm taking an
overview of what's going on in the Middle East since Bush Jr. and before him is Da, and this American foreign policy of regime change.
I know, but the situation
of resources.
The situation evolved. Like these things do evolve. I hate it when people say, "No, it's all going to stay the same." No, like these things evolve.
I didn't say they were going to stay the same. I said just take an overview, because there's a reason why these things are happening, and it's being influenced from out with these nations.
I'm quite honestly, one of the few silver linings that I've seen from this is the weakening of Iran to support Russia in Ukraine, because there's been a fair hit between there's now a hit in between a hit in the trust between the Iranians and the Russians. And whilst I'm not a massive pro-nationalist, and I'm really not a fan of America, I'm also not a fan of a right-wing fascist Russia.
Funny
I do think
they call themselves a socialist state.
No, they don't. That was the USSR. They're now called the Federation of Russia, and Putin does not think he's a socialist.
No,
I think it matters what Putin thinks anyway, to be fair.
Well, Putin considers himself a socialist or no. These states consider themselves to be socialist states.
No.
We all called them communist states, but they never consider themselves.
No. It's been capitalist since the fall of communism. Well, since the fall
I remember
of the
Perry
USSR.
Stryker. I do, aye. I remember Gorbachev. I remember it very well.
Putin's a fascist. He's blood and soil.
Darren, what's your take on what's happened in Syria, to the best of your knowledge? What do you make of it all?
I don't really know too much. When it comes to geopolitics, I have a little look, but like as David says, it depends on where you get your information from. Is it biased? Is it the right information? Is it the wrong information? And I just tend to think that I don't want to delve in too far into something that I don't know enough about, and go down the wrong rabbit hole. But it's been very interesting to listen to what
I really understand where you're coming from there, Dan. I've taken an interest in this stuff over a very long time for strategic reasons. And I've watched the strategic mistakes that have been made that could affect our lives our health and well-being, our futures. And I have watched what's been going on in the Middle East and the policy of regime change to try and kill what they're calling extremist Islam and things like that. You know, that's not what it's about. It's about resources. These are poorer countries. Resources are getting scarce.
Al Murray made a really good joke, like basically encapsulating exactly what you just said. Where, you know, I don't know if anyone's seen that clip of where he's got that inflatable globe.
No.
And he's taking the mick out of us being colonials, going to the Middle East, drawing nice neat lines with a pencil round the naturally occurring oil that they didn't know that it was there, that we knew it was there, and we gave them gave them kings and princesses and stuff with nice Arabian sounding names when we could have just called it Esso, BP, you know, Texaco. It's like, I mean, people were laughing at him in one way, but I see Al Murray for the true progressive he is. His act was taking the mick out of the Nigel Farage and English nationalist types. Like, it was so apt, and it's even though that was filmed back in the early noughties, it's so apt for now.
Yes, it very much is. I remember the clip. It is.
Yeah.
So I know it is up, but that's what it's been about since the 80s.
I kind of had that feeling that maybe that it seems to be more about oil than anything else.
Oil and gas, yep.
Oil and gas always seems to be something, you know, like, I mean, what is it? There's a ton of oil out on the coast of Gaza, isn't there? Which is one of the,
yes,
you know,
you
know, that's another reason why, reason among other reasons why Israel are looking to.
Because
here's an interesting fact for you, Reganelite, that you might not know. Do you know that there could be an oil boom on the Clyde if it wasn't for Fars Lane?
I did not.
The Clyde Basin's full of the fucking stuff.
Yeah, it's like when it came, all that sort of. It kind of reminded me of the Blackadder Goes Forth. For you know,
What Regan see on Monday?
Oh,
what Regan see on Monday? I'm going to trigger Milligan on this one. The oil on the Clyde. Watch him fucking take off like a rocket. He's going to make one of my rants look peaceful.
It's like when it comes to stuff like this, it just kind of slightly reminds me of that series of Blackadder Goes Forth, when all it really came down to it was trying to get Lord Mountbatten's brandy cabinet closer to Berlin.
The UK Treasury denied itself of a second oil basin in order to facilitate nuclear weapons, and it was all hushed up. But you can look this up. I'm not telling any lies. Anybody in the audience wants to look this up. Your search engine's there. Just go and look. And
I should just, and I'll just point out some of the news that I've been gathering from Syria. So yesterday on my live stream, I got obviously some video reporting from Channel 4 where they had their own people. They actually had their own people down on the ground there at Channel 4. And obviously, most of what I'm getting is from Al Jazeera, which I think is more reliable, I would say, than some other outlets. I don't use UK-based outlets, but there's not to say that they're not always right. That's very, very clear because not everyone is. But like you say, do use different outlets. But I'll just give some live up. Yeah, it's sources. Yeah, is what you can say. But I'll just give you guys a couple of bullet points that's been from the live updates that Al Jazeera is reporting from Syria. So this is one of them there, that the Kurdish administration is governing a semi-autonomous enclave in northeastern Syria, announcing it will embrace the independent flag used by the opposition. And there's also been saying that young Syrians are beginning volunteering initiatives to help rebuild the country, for example, like building a police force and whatnot. This is what they are reporting. Whether any of this will come to pass, we will have to wait and see. It's still, because from the understanding from what I gathered is that people are still going about their lives. The Syrian people are still trying to go about their lives as normal, while there seems to be a transition taking place at the moment, while at the same time Israel, as some of you may or may not know, has been seizing territory in the Golan Heights and have at the moment been bombarding what they believe to be chemical warfare or weapon targets of some sorts around Syria, which the UN have condemned, and the US are trying to justify what Israel are doing in Syria, which is what a surprise, I think, is not to say on that. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything more to what Israel are doing in Syria right now than what we already know. If anyone wants to add more.
I swear, the IDF, I know I've said this before, but I have to say it again. It really is like the IDF. First, they went running around Gaza screaming, I exterminating fucking Hebrew. Then it was in fucking southern Lebanon, fucking exterminating fucking Hebrew. And now they're fucking doing it in Syria. Fucking, the Hitler particle has fucking traveled to Israel.
That's as good a rant as I've seen in a wee while, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. There is this map of Greater Israel and part of Syria and Lebanon are part of that map. What we need to worry about now is Jordan, because it's also part of that map.
Yeah.
And when will Israel turn their attention to Jordan? If the king of Jordan isn't going to be compliant?
What do you think about Israel, Daly? Or you just like, I don't really want to talk about them?
No, it's my. I sort of have a little outside look, and as somebody looking from the outside, it just seems to me that the Israeli government are doing far more damage to Israel than what anybody else could do to the people of Israel. Even if those who are in, is it Hezbollah and Hamas, they must be absolutely wetting their pants with delight with what they're actually doing, because they're about as popular as syphilis now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that out there with Blasé. It is not the people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really important that we have to stress whenever people talk about Israel, it's really important to try and separate its people from its government. There are obviously some people who are very supportive of what this barbaric government are doing, and I'm going to call them barbaric.
I will say, the population of Israel, there is an alarming amount. I mean, okay, this is granted looking at the polls, but so it's not a whole view. It's not an entirely accurate picture, but according to the polls coming out of Israel, like at least 60% of the people can approve of continuing the government's actions, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
So
it's an hour walk and make you popular, isn't it? Really?
Oh,
I mean, the guy's literally on trial at the moment, and it's just like at the same time while running a war.
It's the Churchill effect. Fucking racist bastard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane what's going on there. I mean, I mean, all we can say is sort of like, in all seriousness, like I mean, we can only hope for the best for the people of Syria. I know it's unlikely, but we can only just hope.
I'd wish them all the best. But I mean, I posted because most of my activities are on Facebook. I posted a video for a Christian journalist in Syria today, and he was reporting on Alawites and Christians being fucking shot in the streets. Yeah,
there have been people being shot. That I have unfortunately seen some video footage online. I wish I did not see either, but I did. It was not my intention to see people get. There was not my intention on Twitter while looking for news to see actual soldiers shooting other soldiers in Syria, but that is what I saw.
No, I was watching soldiers shooting civilians.
Yeah,
you saw that.
Don't forget that last bit on Syria. Turkey is already taken the advantage to start bombing the shit out of the most democratic part of fucking Syria. So you know,
the Turks really do. They really have a problem with the Kurds. You know, I don't know whether it's justified, and I don't know the background to it. To be fair, but it's been a fucking long time.
At this point, it's almost racism.
No. There's a long history, unfortunately, there as well. Rights over, but we won't go into that, guys. Right, so we'll come. Actually, I will cover, if we have time, we'll cover a bit about America as well, talk a little bit about that as well. But I wanted to come back to the UK, but specifically I wanted to come back to Scotland. And for those who don't know, Scotland had a budget. Like the UK had its own budget, Scotland had its own budget, but they had a very good budget, much to the anger and the dismay of the established media. Things like the scrapping of 2-child benefit cap and changes to basic and intermediate tax thresholds are among the plans for the Scottish Government for the next financial year. Davey, could you kindly enlighten us and the rest of the world why this budget is so good for the people of Scotland, and the rest of the world should take a pinch out of it?
Well, we actually, for this particular wee boon, have been able to give back the winter fuel payment next year. And to be able to scrap a 2-child tax, we can thank Rachel Reeves for that, and we can thank Liz Truss for that, because as you know, in Scotland we have a much more progressive tax system where everybody shares the burden much more equally. We have 6 tax bands, but because the entry level into tax is fixed at Westminster and is frozen up until 2029. Because of inflation and the massive public sector pay rises, the Scottish Exchequer is taking in a wee of money, which means that we can pay it out in social policies, which the SNP always do, because we're a left of centre political party and a socialist party. So we're going to get rid of the 2-child benefit tax at a cost of £150 million, and we're going to reinstate a winter fuel payment universally. Unfortunately, it'll be a much diminished one where everybody will get £100, but it's better than nothing.
It is.
But when you look at why we are where we are, it's got to do with something called the fiscal drag. And the fiscal drag it started with the austerity drive, and it's to be continued to 2029 under this particular Labour government. And of course, thanks to Liz Truss crashing the fucking economy and global pressures pushing and inflation rates so high, the public sector have had massive pay rises. Scottish Executive across the 6 tax bands takes in an extra 770 million quid in income tax. Yahoo! But to be fair, they're not plugging any fiscal gap, because we can't borrow, and by law under the 1998 Scotland Act we have to have a balanced budget. So this is just a boon. We don't have any debt. So any extra money coming in can go straight back out to the people. And that's what this particular SNP government have done over the last 17 years. So we've seen the scrapping of road and bridge tolls. We have seen cheaper rail fares. We don't pay for prescriptions. We don't pay for higher education. Every child's born is given a baby box to make sure that you best start life, and the box itself is a crib. There's no dental charges for the under 25s. Free bus travel for the 12 to 23-year-olds and asylum seekers as of next year. Obviously, the council tax freeze for 12 of the last 13 years has been a massive boon. Whereas your council tax went up £1,000, where's has they moved? In the last 13 years, my council tax went up by 20 quid. 20 quid. So this is what happens, when you have good fiscal management. The mere fact that good fiscal management is forced upon us is maybe something that people of England might want to look at forcing upon a separate English Parliament if this union is going to stay together. Because when you get right down to it, the idea that we have a more progressive tax system is producing the result it's supposed to. That's what this is all about. This is what socialism's about.
There are
and it's getting the balance right. It's about being honest with the people. Like the reason why we haven't had that many industrial action, that much industrial action up here is because the Scottish government's been able to be honest with the trade unions and the workers and go and put the books on the table because we only have X amount and the pot is fixed. Whereas with Westminster, they can print money so they can just fucking fluctuate and do silly things. We can't do that. So when it comes to pay arrangements and pay agreements and things like that, the government can actually go and put the books in front of the people and say, right, okay, if we settle at this amount, nobody gets laid off and services get better. If you want any more than that, look at Joe Boggs in the face and tell him you're losing your job, dickhead. And that's how pay negotiations go up here. Because we have got a fixed budget which must be balanced by law. The reason why we have the advantages of free university tuition, things like that, is a matter of £4 a month. £4 a month for a medium earner. That's how much more tax I paid than you. £4. But my kids get free university education. My kids get to travel for free. My kids get free dental. My kids don't pay prescription charges when they get to 18 or 21 when they're fit. You know, that's what progressive taxation looks like. What's interesting is the Office for Budget Responsibility, the Tory-created think tank which now governs UK expenditure when it comes to budgets and things like that, they've advised the UK government to do the same as Scotland because it would bring in an extra 11.9 billion quid a year, which is the whole cost of the Scottish, well, it used to be the whole cost of the Scottish NHS, but because of our more progressive tax system, out of your budget, we now give a third of it, 21 billion to our NHS. And when you read all this bollocks that the Scottish NHS are on a bit, it's propaganda.
Yeah.
It has its problems. COVID created problems for everybody. It is certainly nowhere near as bad as it is down that road. For a start, every city in this country's got a brand new fucking hospital. Every region in this country's got a brand new hospital. The school estates are brand new. There's no dropping fucking down in people's heads here. And that's what good taxation and good fiscal policy can do for you. The other thing about it is, although we don't control the economy, what we do control is the important things that drive an economy. Health, well-being, education. These are all essential things for a healthy economy. So if you've got a well-educated, fit, happy, healthy population, you're going to have a thriving economy. And that brings in, especially the educated part, that brings in investment. So for all we don't control things like business taxes, corporation tax and VAT and things like that, we can still attract inward investment just by doing the basics. Keeping people healthy, keeping them happy, and educating them.
Yep.
And that's why we can create inward investment. That's why we're the second most productive and the second biggest wealth creator in the UK out with the Southeast, and that's all banking. We have a diverse economy. We were talking about earlier about how we have turned food and drink into a massive industry. Good quality food and drink into a massive industry. We have a human human resources sector in our education which throws out great medical innovations. We have a thriving university sector. We have a great industrial sector. You want an engineer, you still go to Scotland for the engineer. You might not get the country built in Scotland, but you still go there for the engineer. You know, these are the things that we're selling, and these are the things that people need.
So,
and our economy is based on things that people actually need, not things that they think they need, like the service industry, the advertising industry, legals, and banking. No, they're based on things that people really need. Food, drink, structures to live in, machines that actually function properly, and good medical science, you know, and a good education system. So these things that the Scottish government can do, even though they don't control the economy, they've concentrated on doing that. In fact, the watchword up here in Scotland is well-being economy. We don't even want to measure our economy on GDP. We want to measure it on how well the people are doing. So we have things like the child benefit, the child uplift benefit, where every child who's eligible gets £26.80 a week to bring them out of poverty, on top of the UK child benefit system and on top of the UK welfare system. So every single parent who is under a certain wage bracket here in Scotland, 52,000 quid I think it is per household, they get an extra £26.86 per week per child to ensure that the children don't live in poverty. And you want to know the second there is? The UK safety net is that bad. We still have 1 in 4 children in what they call relative poverty.
And we have destitute poverty still here in England, and it's
you have destitution now, yes, you do.
Yeah, which is absolutely disgusting.
And as you know what we do, Reganelite, everything we got, you know there's still a need here. Everything we do, we raise money for food banks because there is still a need here. And mainly it's down to things like UK benefit sanctions in the inner cities, where if they can't find a job or they don't turn up to the brewing time or the unemployment service for those who are not as old as Darren and I, they get their benefits cut for 16 weeks.
Yeah.
They're left destitute for 16 weeks. Well, guess what? We compensate for that here and all.
Yeah. They should be.
We've got what's called the families and the families and persons emergency fund, £146 million a year we put in here, so that when there's sanctions for the UK government, the Scottish people get somewhere to go, so they're not destitute.
And it's just and as I'm sure the rest of my colleagues here feel absolutely like, why is our government not doing the same things down here? It's just mind-boggling. David Blasé, what's your thoughts on all that? How does it make you feel?
Pretty sick, really. Can't you move that border down just to give? Because like when I hear all that stuff, it just kind of reminded me of my time when I would have to deal with the DWP after I've finished my work on incapability, and the way you get treated, especially when you have to fight for everything. You have to fight, and they will make damn sure. It's like after my emergency spinal operation, I was just basically knackered. I used to work on my feet 8 hours a day. I can barely manage 10 minutes, and then I'm my back's in agony, and basically it's a case of now I'm. It hampers everything in my life, and it's a case of when I went for PIP, they knocked me back because she said that you walked in unaided. I was walking with a cane.
Darren, it's time for you to move, mate. That doesn't happen here. We don't have PIP up here. We have the Scottish Disability Allowance, and we don't have third-party non-medical people saying that you're no fit for work. We know your doctors enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and in the end up, when I went for a job fair, I was talking to a bloke. I went with my daughter, and the bloke said to me, Got people who do PIP here. Said, I've just watched you, so I can see 6 points in you already. Whereas when I went first time, I didn't get any. She said, so I'm walking unaided. And it was a straight up lie. I had a kid, and my wife was helping me.
You see, it didn't happen. There's no ATOS assessing you here. Your doctor assesses you, sends it to the Scottish Benefit Service, and you get paid out. Simple as that.
Yeah. That's because a doctor is assessing you, and that's the problem. There's no doctor assessing you down here in England, and that's the the complete and what I call complete
Well,
fucking
the other thing I should
injustice.
tell you is the Scottish disability allowance is about 20% higher than the
Well, like I even remember when I was on intensive job search, I once fell over because I'm on meds for high blood pressure and stuff like that, and one night I had a bit of a funny turn and I fell and hurt my back, and I couldn't get out of bed, so I managed to get the doctor to see me and said, "I'll give you a sick note," because I'm supposed to be going to meet my works coach. So my wife sent it in, telling her what had happened, and they rejected it.
Right. As I say, the benefit system, which used to be there as a safety net, has now become a brutal stick to drive unfit people to do things that they're no fit for. And the amount of people that austerity has killed, you know the numbers yourself, Darren. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah. You're basically treated like you're a liar before you.
Alistair Kerr in the super chat there makes a very good point.
Yeah,
Here
I was
in
just going to say
Scotland-
thanks for that super chat. Yeah,
Here in
he says,
Scotland,
as I've said, England need the same social contract that the Scottish government has with its people, that the SG looks after its people.
Well, there's the point. We
It's
have a
true.
social contract. We have a social contract between our government and our people, and it's a left of centre social contract. So, you know, but that doesn't mean if we get a Labour government or a Tory government or a Lib Dem government, they can't change it. Of course, they could get over that social contract. But at this
just before you come in, Pagan, I just want to say, who gave super chat earlier? Andrew Luke, thank you earlier for this £5 super chat. I didn't get a chance to say thank you. Go on, one Angry Pagan.
It's down here because it's like the major Labour area is like Exeter and Plymouth, and that's like this kind of it. Whereas the rest of it's like either Tory or Lib Dem. And here in Torbay, in the times where both the council and the MP have spent a fair amount of time in power, when it comes to employment support, like when I was set at between 18 to 21, the job centre was sending me on loads of different courses and stuff. Like instead of it just being, if you don't do this, you get penalised. It was they actually tried to help me with this stuff, and this was council stuff. And from where I've been asking, those people that were in the council and whatnot that got kicked out when the Tories properly took over. And it's like, well, what happened then? It was like, well, the new Conservative council and MPs just thought it was a waste of money and thought that the young people didn't need that support, and so that the South Devon College would be enough. So it's no wonder that all the jobs went to shit, because like the young people down here were because of these different job opportunities, these different courses that the job centre was sending you on, they were getting you in contact with employers and stuff. That's not that stopped happening. And then there's the death of the high street, which destroyed us. So like what doesn't help here in Ungerland is our incessant need to have at least a part of the population being socially conservative. And not just socially conservative, but to a ridiculous level as well.
Well, to be true, right enough, I mean, I have noticed a difference in attitudes when it comes to that sort of thing, especially here in Scotland and England. Here in Scotland, if you think you're getting above your station, don't worry. Jimmy's going to take your legs away from you. Down in England, it seems to be revered. Have you ever seen that meme with the working class boy tipping his hat to the management level, and the management level tipping his hat to the upper class? The class system does seem to be a wee bit more embedded where you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
still fighting.
I think it's a very good comment from Archie here. England can never have the same system as Scotland because us royals need funding. That is a big problem that we have here. Is the royal family.
Republican here. Small R Republican here. I eventually want to get rid. If we want to keep the term king as like an old nod to the Anglo-Saxon origins in England, right? Fine. We can call a president or whatever a king. That's fine, right? But no one person has the right to rule over everyone else, especially when they go, "Oh, it's my God-given right," and I'm like, "I don't believe in your God. So what right?"
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The idea of the monarchy is quite ridiculous. But if you go to have a king, let's have a lottery once a year and have somebody else take over for a year.
That's a great idea.
This is a Norman system.
We should have a nomination thing, and then what you could do is have a nomination thing, pick 10 random people in the UK that can be nominated, right? And then those 10 people are put into the lottery, the national lottery where they have the spinny wheel thing, right? And you put it in, and then whoever gets pulled out, that person's going to be our king for the next 4 years.
This was a thing.
How hard can it be to cut a ribbon and shake a few fucking horns? Hey, Muppet, you do it.
We had this before the Normans. Before the Normans, the English used to have an elected monarchy. Not kidding you.
In Scotland, we used to have a rotating monarchy until we got a Malcolm. But we used to, between the three tribes, they would change the monarchy every 3 years.
Yeah, it's an elected monarchy. We had that down here, so it's not like it's an alien system. It's like that's it. It's the typical British thing, isn't it? We need to purge the Frenchness.
That doesn't much apply here. Maybe it was the Norse we had to purge.
Or maybe do like remember that film The Holy Grail, where he's coming and they're pulling out all that mud and they say, "Oh, we're taking turns to be king." Who's the king of that castle?
Elected monarchy? No, I would abolish it. Abolish your monarchy.
Right, you lot have come down the road tonight to watch this programme. Fucking well behave yourself.
No, I'm being oppressed. You see that? He's oppressed.
Yeah. That sounds like a good. The Republic of Scotland. There you go. The Republic of Scotland.
It also sounded good to him. Yusuf is one of the reasons why he's no longer first fucking minister. Because here's a wee interesting fact you guys might know, but don't know. But apart from one subject and one subject only, elections and referenda are devolved. So we could technically tomorrow have a referenda to remove Charles from the throne of Scotland. Although technically it's not necessary because he's not on it. He's never taken the Scottish oath.
Would be interesting. I could just see the Daily Mail with a headline: "Scotland betrays its king."
Never sat on the stone and spoon. You can bugger off.
So technically, we could have a referendum tomorrow and get rid of the Sod. But
there you go.
Because he's technically on the throne here, it's really much. They're an afterthought here. Every time I pick up a paper that says the Royals, you've seen the paper, you go, fucking so what?
Guys, we have gone an hour and a half today. I want to say thank you so much, Dave McGuinness, for coming tonight. Thank you, David Blasé, as well. And One Angry Pagan. Guys, do check out all their YouTube channels down in the comments, in the descriptions. If you can, as we go out, please put links for all their YouTube channels in the descriptions for us as well. Just a reminder as well, that tomorrow morning, as always, every Monday to Friday, Dave McGuinness will cover the paper reviews, and he'll be doing that again tomorrow at 10:30 on his YouTube channel under 2 Davies. So do go check out the paper review if you can. As well, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, Daily Blasé will do his Friday Frolics.
Yeah.
So do check out the Friday Frolics at 5
I do.
o'clock tomorrow.
I'm not at work daily, so I can't make comments.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Oh.
I am the Nick Abbott of live streams on a Friday. I'm the one that does all the cow noises and makes an idiot of myself.
Hey, what's
And,
the part of the fun of doing this is making an idiot of yourself now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll be doing the Friday lights tomorrow at 7 p.m. as well. So once Darren's done his, you can come and hang out with me as well tomorrow evening as well. And of course, do check out One Angry Pagan's YouTube channel as well for content on his one. So guys, again, thank you all so much for coming along. Thank you, Alistair, Keir, and Andrew, Luke here for your super chats earlier. Sorry I didn't read out your super chat, Andrew, earlier on, but it's been a very interesting discussion. A final reminder before we head out as well. Next week on Wednesday, myself and Lee Korn with a Snowflake Show Christmas special. For those who remember back in the days when I first started as a YouTuber with Lee Korn, we will be doing a Christmas special there. So do join us on the channel here next week for that. And then next month on I'm just looking at it now, on the 16th of January, next month is the next show that I will have myself, One Angry Pagan, and we will have Lee Korn and Graham Price from Power to the People will be joining us for that show next month. So do join us for that. February, I will look to get Random Scottish History on whenever I set a date for that one, guys. So do keep an eye out. I will keep you guys posted on that. So thank you guys once again for all your comments. Thank you guys, my guests, for coming along tonight. I really enjoyed the discussion. Hope you guys had fun as well with it. It was very good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure we will do this again with all of you again at some point as well. But yes, but yeah, thanks guys all for watching, and take care and have a good night, everyone. Bye bye. I need to press. Where's the end button?